Hello students, in this video we are going to see how we can declare a class in a C++ program, and then after we see how we can define class member functions either inside and outside of the class, and then after we see how we can create the objects of a class, and at the end we will have an example of a C++ program containing a class and the objects. Let's go right now. So a class is a user-defined data type. This means that it is a structure declared by keyword class that has data and functions. So the data of a class are also called data members or the variables of a class. Whenever the functions of a class are also called member functions. This means that a class is an expanded concept of data structure which combines both data members and member functions. Class definition in C++ or class declaration in C++. So as you see, to declare a class we use keyword class. We use keyword class and also class name. So a class has both data members and member functions which are inside the curly brackets. But before declaring data members or member functions of a class, you have to start by access specifiers. So in this concept, the members of a class should be private, public, or protected. So we use access specifiers. And then after access specifiers, we have to declare data members, and then after we declare member functions. So at the end of a class, we have the semicolon here. So this semicolon means that we have defined, or this is the end of a class. In other words, we have to keep in mind that each time we are going to declare a class, we have to use keyword class, which is followed by the name of a class. The name of a class is a valid C++ identifier. It means that it is any name, any variable name respecting variable naming rules. We open the curly brackets right after a class name, and then we start by access specifier for data members or member functions. And then we close the curly brackets and we put the semicolon here, which means that this is the end of the class. So this is an example of a class, and you see that you have used the keyword class because each time we are going to declare a class, we use keyword class, and the name after the keyword class is the class name. This means that my class is called sum. And here we have private access specifier. So private access specifier means that the variables declared after these access specifiers will be only accessed inside this class, not outside of this class. And after we have another access specifier which is public. Public access specifier means that the members after this access specifier will be accessible everywhere in this C++ program. So here we have a member function which is called the add, and with return type which is void. Here we don't have parameters. So this is the declaration of a member function. And keep in mind that member function declaration is always inside a class. This is the end of our class. So we can define a member function inside the class or outside the class. Let us discuss about those two types of member function definition. So let us see how we can define the member function inside a class. So we have a keyword class and the class name. Inside a class we have access specifier. Access specifier in C++ can be private, public, or protected. Private member of a class is only accessible inside of that class. Whenever public member of a class is accessible everywhere in the program, and protected member of a class is only accessible inside a class, and it can be also accessed by child classes. So here we have member type or data type, and here we have data members. This the syntax to declare data members of a class. And after we are going to define the function inside this class. So to define a function inside a class, we must use its return type, and after a return type we have the function name. The function name is also a valid C++ identifier or any identifier respecting variable naming rules in C++. Here we have a list of parameters. So for the parameters we have to write the data type of a parameter and the parameter name, comma, data type of the second parameter and the parameter name, and so on. So we say parameter list because a member function should have any number of parameters where each parameter is together with its data type. And here we open immediately the body of our member function. The body of member function is shown by a pair of curly brackets. So these two red curly brackets show the body of this member function, and this black curly brackets, this one is closing a class definition, and here we have the semicolon because at the end of each class definition there is a semicolon. So this means that the definition of a member function inside the body, inside a class, is like the general definition syntax of a function in C++. We must have return type, we have also function name, we have the list of parameters, and we have the statement of our function which are embedded into the curly brackets. So we can see immediately example. So here we have a class which is called the addition, because this word addition is together with the keyword class. We have some members of this class. We have private members because the access specifier here is private, and keep in mind that an access specifier is always followed by colons. Here we have colons. So we have two class variables or two class data members with member type which is float. And also we have a member function which has been defined inside the class, and the member function is called the add. Here we have no arguments or parameters, and the return type of this member function is void, and inside the body of this member function we have some statements. So we have enter two numbers, C in A, B, and C out sum. It means that the target of this member function is to accept two different numbers from the keyboard and then calculate and display the sum of two numbers. So you see that this member function is defined inside the class because it is inside the body of class, which is ended by the semicolon here. So now let us see how we can define a member function outside of a class. So to define a member function outside of a class, we must use also a scope resolution operator. You see that we have class definition as usual, but the class, after class definition, there is the definition of a member function outside of the class, because this member function will be defined outside of the class. So we have keyword class as usual, we have class name, and we have curly brackets to delimit the body of a class. If I can say, here we have access specifier which can be private, public, or protected, because in C++ during the study of object-oriented programming languages, we have three types of access specifier. We have private access specifier, we have public access specifier, and protected access specifier. So this is the declaration of data members, because we have member type or data type, and we have variable names or data members. So we have also to declare the member function inside the class. Function declaration and function definition are two things or two concepts in computer programming which are totally different. Function declaration syntax, we have return type, we have function name, we have the list of parameters of the function under consideration, and the declaration statement is always ended by a semicolon. So you see that inside a class we have declaration of data members and also declaration of member function. So you see that this semicolon shows that the class has been already defined. So outside the class, to define a member function outside it, we have to use the return type of the member function, which is followed by the class name, and the class name is followed by scope resolution operator, and after scope resolution operator we have function name and the list of parameters of this member function, and we have immediately the body of our member function, including the statement, because A function, by definition, in computer programming, is a group of statements which are executed in order to perform the specific task. You see that the definition of a member function outside of the class involves the use of scope resolution operator, which always follows the class name. So we have return type, class name, scope resolution operator, function name, and the parameter list immediately together with the body of the functions containing the statements that will be executed so that the member function performs the specific task. So here we have an example of a C++ program where we have a class definition, and also we have the definition of so we have a C++, we have a pollution or a part of a C++ program where there is a class definition and also member function. The member function of class has been defined outside of the class. So we have class definition as usual, and inside this class we have private data members which are A and B, and we have also a public member function which has been only declared inside this class. The class is called the addition and defined outside of a class. As I have told you, to define a member function outside of a class, we use its return type, which is followed by the class name, and the class name is followed by the class resolution operator. After scope resolution operator, we have the member function name, which is add, and here we have the body of this function. So here we have a C++ program where we have defined a member function outside of a class, and after writing this C++ program into dev C++, we have compiled and run the program, and you see that there is output. This means that this program is running, or in other words, this program does not contain syntax errors. So we have a preprocessor directive, we have class definition, and inside this class we have private members, data members, and also public member functions, and this member function has been declared inside the class, and then it has been defined outside of the class. And after this, we have created an object into the main function, because a class is a user-defined data type. To create an object, we use a class name as data type, addition, and this is an object name. And then, once we want to access class member, we use object name and the dot operator, and here we have member name. Let me explain in details how we can create the objects in C++. So an object is an instance of a class. This means that we create an object after defining a class. So it is an instance of a class. This means that we can say that an object is a variable of the type class, or it is a variable which has been declared by using new defined data type, which is the class name. So the syntax to create an object in C++, we use class name, which is the user-defined data type, followed by object name, and an object name is a valid C++ identifier, and this one is ended by the semicolon, because each statement in C++ is ended by a semicolon. An example here, once we have a class which is called the addition, we can create an object called obj by writing the name of class, which is followed by the name of object, and this is ended by the semicolon. So if I wanted to access the members of an object, I have to use a dot operator. An example, we want to create an object which is called my obj of a class called addition. So I define the class called addition, and this class, suppose that this class contains 3 members. We have 2 data members, A and B, and 1 member function, which is called the add. So to access this, I have to use dot operator. For example, if I wanted to access data member A by using this object, I write object name dot class members. So here we have an example of a C++ containing the object. So we define a class called the addition, and inside this class we have both private members and public members. So the data members A and B are private. Even if we didn't write it down private access specifier here, we know that a class is always private by default. So we can put a private access specifier here, or don't put it each time we want to declare the private members of a class. So here we have 2 float data members of this class, and here we have a public member function which is called the add, and this member function has been defined inside the class. So into the main function, I create an object. As you know, to create an object, I use class name as the data type, and here I have an object name. So to access any member of this class, I write down object name dot operator and the name of the member function I wanted to access. So this syntax means that the object my obj accesses a public member of this class, which is called the add. So here we have an exercise, and within this exercise we wanted to define a class, a member function of a class inside a class and outside of a class. So exercise, by using a class, write a C++ program to calculate the average of 2 numbers entered from a keyboard. So we start by defining a class. My class is called the addition, and this class has both data members and member functions. My data members, the class data members are private, and we have to declare 2 data members. Here I have float A, B, and each statement is ended by semicolon, and we have a public member. This member function has been defined or declared as a public member because the object will access it from the main function. So it is always public, because if we declare this member function as private, the object cannot access this member function. And this member function has been defined inside the class, because this is the general syntax to define a member function inside a class. So we have the return type is void, the member function name is add. This member function does not contain the parameters, and the statements are the following. This member function has to accept two values from the keyboard, and then calculates its average and prints or displays the output from the monitor. So into the main function, we create an object by using a class name, which is a user-defined data type. The object name is capital A, and this is syntax. We have to access the public member function of this class. So we write it down, the object name dot operator, which is followed by the member function of this class. So once we type the following codes into dev C++, and then after we compile and execute them, we have this output.